Go. Alrighty. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Automation Nation inside Barnum. I'm Cody, and we're here today with Ed Seguin, who is our product manager for Contrinex. And we got all kinds of stuff on the table here. And actually, our product of the month this month is our Contrinex double blank sensor. So we'll be touching on that and just kind of going over a little bit of Contrinex in general. So, Ed, if you want to let us know kind of what you do for Contrinex. How long have you been with Barnum and doing this kind of thing with the product management of
I've been at
different
Barnum
things?
almost 35 years. It'll be 35 in May. I started doing product management and sales management back in the early 90s. I was the product manager for our former sensor suppliers, who will remain nameless. And then when we switched brands to Contrinex, it was just the logical choice. Contrinex is another global company, and they make a bunch of different types of primarily inductive proximity sensors, but they have some capacitive sensors, they have some photoelectric, they dabble in some safety products. But their biggest claim to fame is sensors that have significantly more range than most other manufacturers in the same size housing.
Sure.
For example, in a 30 millimeter housing like this, you can get 40 millimeters of range, not only on steel, but on aluminum, which is also a very big difference between them and some other manufacturers.
Yeah, just from my basic knowledge on these type of sensors, I usually see it like a half to a third that range
Yes.
when it's advertised.
Um,
Where's Contrinex out of too?
They are based in Switzerland. Their headquarters is in Switzerland. They are in the United States in Texas, just outside of Austin. So they do make a lot of the products in the United States. That's another interesting point or key point. And they primarily have a couple different things that they chase in the market, and that is the welding industry in particular.
Mm-hmm.
They have a proprietary patented coating called Active Stone. This switch has Active Stone. This switch has half and half, so you can see the difference and feel how thick that coating is.
Yeah.
It's not very thick. Why is that different than competitors? This coating doesn't come off. Most other competitors use some type of a Teflon combination. And when you pull the competitor sensors out of the bag and start running the nuts onto the sensors,
You'll see it scraping off.
you'll see places where the material comes off, and once it comes off, it's over in a welding cell. The weld slag immediately begins to attach and build up, causing the sensor to fail over time. These ones don't do that. We've been selling them since October 1st, 2024. We've probably saved hundreds of thousands, if not more, in weld cells from a unplanned downtime being prevented, sensors lasting 10 times longer than a competitor. They truly have the best sensors in the industry for harsh welding environments in particular. They're 100% stainless steel housing as well, these particular series, and they can take a beating. A lot of people take
Yeah, we've seen that demo.
everybody likes the hammer demo, but inevitably you're going to find that guy who's stronger than that hammer and sensor.
Yeah, especially depending on what kind of hammer we want to smoke it with too. But basically anything that's got that gray coating is that active stone, right?
Yes.
And then just their normal unfinished
so-
is the more polished.
Right. You can put the active stone coating on heavy duty brackets like this. So then when you combine that heavy duty bracket with a sensor, it's going to take a tank to knock that thing out of commission inside of a manufacturing plant. They make them for the little tubular mounts as well. This would be for an M12 sensor. And again,
So you could technically, even if you're using someone else's sensor, let's say, you could get these brackets to
Yes.
help protect it. If you didn't maybe had an embedded one or you didn't want to swap brands at that time, you could at least get their brackets to maybe help protect your
Right,
sensors
and-
from weld and all that.
the issue you'll see if they put this in, the slag may end up building up around here because that's what it does.
Yeah.
But it will get on here, it'll start collecting, and instead of having to go in there with an air hammer, you can go in there literally and peel it off with your hands.
Wire brush it, rub it off, things like that.
It'll take a wire brush if you wanted to use a wire brush. It's unnecessary. This coating is just amazing. It is when they say slag immune, that's slag immune. If it gets on here, it's easy to remove, and you're back up and running with minimal downtime.
It's kind of impressive. I like it. It kind of gives a unique look to it too. Like if you're walking on a plant, you saw something that caught you right away, you would know it's a Contrinex sensor.
And they make your standard plain Jane everyday proc switches too. So if people don't, these generally are not going to be as cheap as
is it a
standard
astronomical
automation
price
sensor.
increase to get that coating on it?
It is not. It's not outrageous. It's not just the coating. Without getting into all kinds of crazy technical stuff, they do sense material differently than conventional manufacturers, which allows them to live longer and in higher temperatures, get better range. There's a whole some things that they do that other sensor manufacturers don't do. So they're probably, I would say, 30 to 40% more expensive than a conventional sensor, but you're not replacing it near as often.
Yep.
You're not causing unplanned downtime. And in some cases, it can help you monitor quality, which is kind of something that we learned after we had the line for a little bit. Double blank sensing is a very common application in the metal forming industry.
Yep.
If you hit two parts with a die, that's bad for the die. If you weld two parts together that aren't supposed to be together and it gets all the way to the car in the manufacturing plant, that's a little bit of a problem. If you weld stuff and a nut doesn't get welded where it was supposed to be welded when they go to a manufacturing plant, now there's nothing to accept the threads from the fastener that's supposed to go into that nut. These smart sensors are IO-Link, and it allows you to do some things with an app on your cell phone and our handy dandy PocketCodr or IO-Link. You can do the same thing I'm about to do here with an IO-Link master and a little bit of PLC work. But let's go ahead and take a look at the double blank application.
So the double blank, we have an 18 mil version and a 30 mil version here.
Yes, from this.
Those are the two options, right? There isn't
Yes,
a smaller one or anything.
I'm told they're working on a 12, but truly, when you start getting that small, it's you need a little bit more sensor to get this application done and get it done accurately.
And so the difference with a double blank to like a standard prox is it really like using any special technology, or is it just using the data coming back from the sensors they already built to create a special circumstance with these sensors?
It's still using conventional sensor technology to detect the target. Then it's got some magic built in that's combined with IO-Link to do some things that conventionally sensors don't do.
So I noticed on this little device, there's a teach button, there's a connect, there's a Bluetooth. With the teach button, so we obviously have an app on our phones to run these things. Can you also program and teach these just using the button on the front?
To be honest with you, I've never tried.
I've never tried it either. I'm just curious.
I've always used it with our phones.
It's nice having the display feedback with the phone anyway.
Yes. So it's calling, it's going to show me, I don't know how well you can see this on the camera, but I'm going to log in to the sensor here through my phone, and it is now showing me live sensor data.
And for anyone who's just listening to this, and even if they're watching this and can't really see the screen on its phone, we will do a little screen grab recording of this later and have a video of this so you can actually see this properly as well.
Yeah, so right now, if this sensor was mounted, I can take parts, and you won't be able to see this, but I can see how much of a target the sensor is seeing.
So we're not plugged into PLC, nothing. We're just talking Bluetooth from that thing back to our phone, and we're getting input-output data, and we're getting basically sensor strength data back to run this double blank test.
Right. We're going to have to cut it because it's not coming up right now.
We'll try. We could try it on mine here too.
Try
Have
the
the
app?
app, yeah. See if I can steal it.
Let me knock mine out.
Here, let's see if this guy works.
just tested this not long ago.
Okay, so look like mine popped up.
Mine's not showing me the teach button. That's the issue.
Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, I got teach on there. If you want to.
All right, so the way this is going to work, I would have my sensor mounted in the fixture. I put the sensor into teach mode. I have 2 pieces of galvanized steel here, and the first thing I have to teach is the environment the sensor's mounted in without any other metal interfering, because it's very sensitive.
Now, metal in general, does it matter? Do these sensors care about what type of metal's in front of it?
These particular ones prefer not to have any steel or aluminum while you're setting these applications up. So if it's in a fixture that's got a lot of metal
Yeah.
encroaching on the face of the sensor, it might take a little bit of sorcery to get it to work properly.
Sure.
But it can be done. It's just better if it's got a clear metal-free zone, at least as big as that bracket.
And then what it can sense, does it have to be steel? Does it have to be aluminum?
Steel or aluminum, the double blank sensors work on steel or aluminum,
Okay.
up to about 2 millimeters or so thick. And then it starts
Okay.
getting, the thicker you get, the more challenges you introduce.
Sure.
Lots of things can be programmed out or into the situations to make it reliable. This piece of steel I have here is about 0.6 millimeters thick. So I'm going to tell it that, and then I'm going to say start teaching. And it's going to do some things with the sensor, gather some data. If this was on IO Link, we could be seeing what data is coming in.
Yep.
And now it's showing me a live graph in a no sheet situation. Typically how I like to set these up is I introduce it to a single sheet, and you'll be able to see on the screen grab at some point, it's reading about 30, and it's a relative scale. Doesn't mean
It's like a
30
percentage,
millimeters. Yes,
basically.
it's exactly. So
Here,
with one sheet,
I can hold it if you want to
I read about
teach.
30, and you hold it right up to the face of that bracket. When I put a second sheet in there, I see a significant jump on my graph. That's good, because that tells me that there's a clear difference between one sheet versus 2.
So ideally, you kind of want to test that first.
Yes.
See that there's a difference before you just
Exactly.
hit teach and go
You're,
for it.
you're verifying that the application is going to work. So
Yeah.
it's going to explain up here. It's telling me to teach it with nothing present. So I'm going to do that, and it's going to learn its environment. Now it's asking me to teach a single sheet. If you want to hold that there, I'm going to hit the teach button. And again, this could all be done in PLC code
Mhm.
and have a process on an HMI. So now it's asking me to show a double sheet. So we hold both of them up against the face of that, and I teach that. It's going to go and show me some outputs afterward. And essentially what you're doing is teaching 2 different outputs.
Sure.
So
So
right
you can
now,
still-
both outputs are on, both outputs are off. Now if you put one sheet in front of it, you get one output. Put the double sheet in front of it, and you'll get both outputs, which would represent a bad condition.
Yeah.
It works very similarly if that was a part with a hole in it, and you load the part into the nest, and there was supposed to be a nut welded to that hole. It will tell you the nut's present or not present.
Sure.
Again, it's a way to do quality.
So really, the sensor's getting basically like the thickness of the metal or the amount of metal is sending back.
It's
More
like
s- more
it's
signal.
proportional to the amount of saturation on the sensing
Yeah.
field. So it's hard to explain because there are other devices on the market that will do this application, known as double blank sensors. There's a couple companies out there that are larger, and this can be an application that potentially involves $30,000 worth of hardware, depending on how complex it is.
Wow.
This sensor, bracket, cable is under $1,000,
That's impressive.
and it is very reliable given if you take all the precautions necessary, which means consistent presentation of the parts
Yeah.
to the sensor, consistent gap between the sensor, and it's reading about 6 millimeters from the part. So
Yeah, so you're not going to use the double blanket, that 40 millimeter scenario. It's
no,
not meant for
no,
that.
you at that point you there's too much variation
Yeah.
at that distance.
I guess the fact too that it's an iLink sensor, and even if you don't have it perfectly hard coded exactly on it, you still get all that data back, and you can even basically do your own version of that in the PLC if you wanted to,
Yes.
just by reading the data from the sensor, because
Yes.
there's so much more information because it's an iLink sensor.
These are about $700, and they come with a lifetime subscription to the app
Mm-hmm.
that allows you to program the sensor. It's much easier to do it in a PLC if you're in a manufacturing environment.
Yep.
It's just who's got the PocketCodr.
Yeah.
It turns into a game.
If I don't have the iLink sensor or an iLink master, and I still want to get this programmed, but I don't have an iLink system that wants to talk to it, if I use the PocketCodr, program this, it is just a discrete sensor at that point, right?
Yes.
I'm just using the two wires on it like a normal sensor, but now I was able to configure how I want that sensor to send those outputs.
It's exactly right. If you, and that's a good point. If you don't have a complex, an IO link system, a network,
Mm-hmm.
you can use this sensor right out of the box with one of these, and you could program 100 of these. You just have to program them every time you put one in using this. But after you're done with this, it's a discrete sensor, IC2 or IC1.
And that device, the PocketCodr, you can actually like save and export your configurations with that too, right? If you do any fancy configuring of it, you can I think you can send that to people.
Yes.
You can save them, they save to your account.
Yes.
Which is nice. It's a pretty slick little device. I think from what I was looking at, it basically just goes in and takes every iLink device usually has an IODD file, so it just reads the IODD information, and that's what allows that sensor to kind of be configured over your app. Which is nice.
There's quite we've done some experimenting with them, and there are some things you can do with these sensors that can't be done with typical sensors.
Mm-hmm. I don't know many proxies or anything like that have iLink on them from anyone. I mean, usually
a lot of people do, but I mean, you're getting basic information: temperature,
yeah,
possibly vibration, status, on or off, or the health of the sensor.
We've only been dealing with these sensors since last October. Have you been seeing a lot of customers kind of saying, yeah, I like having all that extra functionality, or I just want the standard procs? That's it.
A little bit of both. The welding sensors have really been an absolute smash. They've been solving problems like we've never been able to do in these welding environments.
Mm-hmm.
The double blank sensors are also getting a lot of attention. When you show somebody this tabletop demo, you can see the bells going off. Where can I put this in my plant that I'm struggling with conventional double blank sensors? Because most double blank sensors have to contact the part, and that's the problem, because if it's an A surface, now you worry about damaging the A surface at some point in the manufacturing process.
Mm-hmm.
With these non-contact single probe sensors, that application is solvable, and for a very economic amount of money.
Sense that before a hit and a die,
yes,
that if you have to contact the part, that's putting that sensor basically getting ready to be destroyed very quickly.
Yes,
the lifetime of that sensor is going to be nothing. But if you can put that thing down a little bit, 2 millimeters or something, the lifetime immediately increases because it's never going to get smoked.
Yes, exactly. So it's a very unique sensor, and it solves a lot. We're finding problems for it to solve that we didn't know about 3 months ago.
Yeah, so we got the 30 mil and the 18 mil versions of those. I mean, it's a fairly lightweight sensor too. I mean,
it's all 100% stainless steel. It will take a pretty good mechanical beating from brushes.
There are indicator lights on there too, so you can see your output status as well. Standard M12, 4-pin.
It's a very popular housing, and like I said, we're finding more and more applications to solve with those. Getting back to welding, Contrinex looks at the welding problems from the sensor back to the PLC or IO block. So they also make a bunch of cable protection products. This happens to be an active stone-coated metal flexible conduit that you can thread an M12 sensor cable through. Now, Once your sensor's mounted, you can run this conduit right up to the edge, zip tie it, shrink tube it, whatever. But now this cable is permanently protected from weld slag.
Yeah, so if you pair that with one of these brackets and even a
Yes.
weld protected sensor, you got a completely closed and protected
It is
system.
literally a bulletproof system for the welding environment.
And now you don't have to buy a weld proof length of cable that's going to be
Right.
really expensive when you only needed that much protected.
Right. And this is just a sample. It will be available in different lengths. But more, this is only about 700, 800 millimeters. Or not even that much. Probably 200 millimeters.
Yeah.
But it'll be available probably in 1 and 2 meter lengths for just the reason you said is you don't need 10 meters of cable protected. You need 2 meters cable
Just
protected.
the local area to whatever the weld is happening or the heat. That's pretty slick. And then what's this little guy here?
Smaller version of this for using this in the manufacture of the welding sensors. They make a particular sensor that everybody refers to as a flat pack. It's a very small sensor, like the size of your thumb, but about half as thick. The failure point on those sensors is where the cable enters that sensor because they're in a machine and then they got to route the cable this way or up or down or wherever.
They're usually embedded type of sensors.
The sensors are typically embedded in tooling, aluminum or steel, but this is still the exposed weak point. Well, now they can put this active flex metal conduit and mold. When they manufacture the sensor, this is going to go right into the back end of the sensor. So there will be zero actual cable exposed. Everything will be protected inside here, with the exception of the M12 or M8 that will be on the other end of this. And same thing, it goes a little less than a meter, and by then, most of the time, you're out of the hazard. So what Contrinex does is looks for the common problems in the welding environment and tries to come up with a total solution from the sensor face to where the signal gets back to the PLC.
We got one more thing laying here. So this guy, you got a zip tie on it here, but what really is that?
This is designed for when you have bundles of cables or air hoses in welding environments. With the zip tie, you put this stuff around your bundle, pull it through and get it closed, and then this will protect your cables, air hoses, etc., anything behind it. This is called active wrap. It's the same branding as the active stone. This is another proprietary material that was invented by the guy who invented active stone. Nothing sticks to this. We've seen multiple examples where in plants you have dispensing applications and there's always dispense overflow or stuff that gets dispensed when it's not supposed to be dispensed, and it gets on everything, and then it's a big mess because you can't get it off. This is also good for weld slag. It hits and it falls off. If it sits like this and it pools, it will get burnt through. It'll take a lot of time, but it will happen.
Yeah.
If you can protect stuff with this in a vertical orientation, it'll last and work a lot better. But it's available in different size sheets, different lengths, with the zip tie holes, without the zip tie holes. It's something also that we're proving is extremely durable in these welding environments. And whatever you put it on to protect, it is amazing what it does. It's like armor, like putting if you could make a suit out of this, you could live in a robot cell.
Is it pretty heat resistant too? Obviously, it's like
extremely
resistant for
heat
all the other stuff. But
500 and something degrees, heat resistant. So all the sparks and weld slag that come at this stuff, it hits it and sheds it off just like rain on a raincoat.
it's a lot better than just like the little piece of plastic weld curtain that people use now.
Right. You'll see plastic weld curtains. You'll see leather. You'll see silicone, which in plants,
Kevlar.
facilities that are doing painting don't want silicone material in the
Sure.
plants for the reasons that it affects the process. This stuff is another blend of Teflon and some fibers, and it's just weld guns is another big application for this. We make boots out of it that put over your spot welding guns, so that all the mechanics that are opening and closing the spot weld
Oh, sure.
are protected.
Yep.
Because without something like this, they put some kind of material on them, and eventually it gets replaced because it fails. This stuff is another thing that will last 10 times or more longer than conventional weld protection cloth material. So
Yeah,
they
that's
really
pretty
attack
slick.
the welding environment.
Yeah,
And
it
have,
seems like that's kind of their main focus is that welding realm to make sure and anything, sensors, your cables, whatnot are protected.
yep, we have not found a welding challenge that we have not been able to provide a welding solution.
That's nice to have because it seems like that is a niche market, trying to find stuff that works and well. People are figuring out whatever the heck they can to shield their own stuff or embed things or cover things, but now it's just here.
Yep, it's been under promoted. Let's just say that.
Sure. So how is just, overall in general, so we've been working with Contrinex since October. Seems like it's been going pretty good with them so far. Been pretty fruitful, pretty good partnership.
It's been going great. They value us as a partner. We're already the largest Contrinex distributor in the United States, probably in North America. They've got a really good team that works really well with our team, and we are really looking forward to continuing to push that line and develop it and turn it into a major line for Barnum Company.
Awesome. And since they are, you said, out of Europe originally, they have global support for any of our customers listening that might be sending a machine.
Literally from all over the world, India, China, Vietnam, Poland, most of the countries actually all the countries in Europe, Germany, Italy, Spain, France. It's a good meeting. There's amazing how many of the applications and challenges that we find here
Carry over in all these other places.
It's universal. Slag and weld spatter in welding environments is universal. Weld slag doesn't care where it's at. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think welding's going anywhere anytime soon.
No,
Yeah.
all those electric cars need battery trays, and battery trays get welded just like everything else on the cars.
This is pretty good. Is there anything else you can think of on either the double blank itself or just in general? I guess we didn't really say that even their standard sensors, you can get them in an IO-Link version,
Most of their sensors have IO-Link,
which is really cool.
so if you need to do a little bit more than just have it a discrete sensor, you can get data on there and you can make decisions with that data just like you can with other IO-Link data. But you burn a master port when you do that. So most people are still using them just as plain Jane discrete I/O.
Yeah, usually when you're doing proxies, you usually got quite a few of them.
Yep.
But
no, give your Barnum sales guy a call and tell him to bring his Contrinex demos by, especially if you're in a welding environment and we haven't got to you yet. We are going hard and heavy as fast as we can.
Yeah, we got these PocketCodrs floating around. Either a salesman or someone from our apps team could carry one around, show it off, test it out on your machine. Like I said, like as always, reach out to the Barnum reps, and I think their website is pretty decent too. Go to Contrinex's website and kind of look through their whole portfolio. And if anybody has any questions on this stuff, reach out. But thank you, Ed. This was a good conversation. I like these things. Especially this weld coating. This is really cool. Might
give us.
We're looking for the opportunities you could coat stuff with this thing just to turn it into something.
We've got a lot of things we're working on that are getting coated with that stuff. Again, bring us the hardest applications you have in your welding facilities. We will work with Contrinex to find a solution.
Good deal. Alrighty. Well, thanks again, Ed, and thank you for whoever's listening. Another episode of Automation Nation, and we'll catch you next time.